Turn to John chapter 10. And let's look at this story now, John chapter 10, and what Jesus is speaking to these Pharisees. He's having a conflict with them. Major conflict going on. In chapter 9, I said that he heals this blind man. At the end of chapter 9, then we begin reading. Look at verse 35 in chapter 9. Jesus heard that they had thrown him out. Threw him out. Blind since he was a baby. For all of his life, but healed. Threw him out. Isn't it interesting how when God starts to move in someone's life, some people just get upset? Why is that? Why is it that some people just get upset? Well, because it shows their heart. And it shows their lack in their own lives. And so it's so difficult for some people. So they threw him out. And when he found them, it says, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" He says, "Who is he? Tell me so that I may believe in him." Jesus said, "You have now seen him. In fact, he is the one speaking to you." Then the man said, "Lord, I believe." And he worshipped him. Jesus said, this is verse 39, "For judgment I have come into this world, so that the blind will see, and those who see will become blind." So some Pharisees who were with him heard him say this and asked, "What? Are we blind too?" And Jesus said, "If you were blind, you would not be guilty of sin. But now that you claim you can see, your guilt remains." Huh? Don't you kind of go, "What? I'm not sure I got that." What he's saying is, a person who knows they're blind goes to get healed, and gets healed, and can now see. But a person who thinks he sees, but is actually blind, will remain blind. Right? If you think you know, and you don't know, you never look for it. You know our kids, when they know it all, I remember being 21 and telling my dad, "I'm 21 now. I don't need you to tell me what to do." I'm sure my dad probably sat there and thought, "The boy is an idiot." But I can't tell him now. So now I'm 63, and now I look back when I was 21. And I was an idiot. Didn't know anything. But you know what? When you look at this stuff, you can't find out anything until first you know you have a need. And so you can't get healed of blindness unless you first find out that you're blind. And so he said, at the end, your guilt remains. You think you have no need. You think that you have no problem. You think you've got it all settled, and you do not. That's a dangerous position to be in for anyone. For you today, who say, "Well, I really know." Do you really know? You ought to always be pursuing, because you might not know. So you always ought to be in the attitude of pursuing to know more of God and more about Him, because you don't know, and I don't know everything. There's a lot to learn. If anything I learned in seminary was one thing, so many years ago, I learned after all those hours and hours of reading and studying and memorizing and reading and writing and memorizing. When it was all finished and I walked out with my degree, I found out I knew precious little. And yet I see so many Christians who know precious little, who think they know so much. And they'll remain without knowing much. Because first you have to realize how little you know, so that you'll pursue. And so that you'll pursue God. And so what he's saying to these Pharisees, you're blind, you don't get it. And so now he starts in chapter 10, another way of explaining it. Another metaphor he's going to use to try and explain what it is he's talking about the kingdom. They think he's crazy. They think he's full of the devil. They think he's demon-possessed. Now look at verse 1 in chapter 10. "I tell you the truth. The man who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in by some other way, is a thief and a robber. The man who enters by the gate is the shepherd of his sheep. The watchman opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. But they will never follow a stranger. In fact, They will run away from him because they do not recognize a stranger's voice. Jesus used this figure of speech, but they did not understand what he was telling them. So now he uses another metaphor to try and tell them, you aren't part of the kingdom. You're not going to heaven. Your father is not Abraham. Your father is the devil. He's trying to tell them who they are and why they're there and why they are not part of his kingdom. And so he uses this metaphor of a sheepfold, a place probably in a village where everybody would put their sheep. And everybody at night would take their sheep over to this area that was probably usually penned off, sometimes in rocks, at least in the village, not always rocks, but it could be buildings, and then they would put the sheep in that pen. Everybody's sheep would go in the pen. Everyone's. And then they would set one person to be the guard over the sheep and guard so that no one steals them. And then sometimes, though, the one who was guarding, the watchkeeper, the watchman, the one who was guarding would sleep, but he would sleep across the doorway, and he would protect the sheep from anyone coming in and getting them, whether wolves or people, to steal them. And then Jesus said, however, the way some people do it is what they do is they take care of it, not going through the door, they climb the wall. When they get over the fence somehow, and they jump over and try to steal the sheep out by climbing over. Now, when you look at this illustration, he's setting them up to say, Israel is the sheep. Israel are all the sheep. Okay? You guys are all sheep, he's saying. And there's a fence all the way around, and there's someone guarding it. And there's a watchman letting people in and out, or to take their sheep in and out. And then he says, along comes the shepherd. Now, who is the shepherd? Well, in this illustration, it's Jesus. He's the shepherd in this metaphor. He says, along comes the shepherd. And he says to the watchman, I come to get my sheep. The watchman doesn't know which ones are his. There may be 100 sheep in there. He doesn't know whose sheep they are. He just knows that's a shepherd. And so the shepherd then says, sheep. Who knows what a shepherd really says? Maybe he whistles. Maybe he yells. Maybe he says, hey! Whatever he does, some of those sheep go, boom! That's the shepherd. And the rest of them just kind of sit there and go, who was that? They don't recognize it. They don't recognize the call. They don't recognize the voice. They don't recognize the shepherd. And so those that hear the voice, they perk up and they look up. Can you just imagine they're all laying down and all of a sudden, I heard it. I heard the shepherd. Where is he? And the shepherd goes, come on. Come on, guys. Come on. And all the sheep that are his stand up. And they start to go out. And they come towards the shepherd. And the shepherd goes, come on. I'm right here. Come on. Come on. And he starts going back, away from the gate. And all the sheep start following him. And the sheep start going after him. And he walks down the road. And the sheep are following after him. And he turns left and they follow after him. And he turns right and they follow after him. And they follow him because he's their shepherd. And then the watchman closes the door. And the rest of the sheep just go back to sleep. Now why don't some of those other sheep follow him? Because they're not his sheep. They follow their own shepherd. Now if another shepherd comes up and says, come here, here I am. Other sheep will pick up their ears and go, but they're not Jesus. And that's what he's saying here is, I know that you think you're all from Abraham. I know that you think you're all part of my kingdom, in his kingdom, but you are not. Only those who hear my voice and only those who follow me are my sheep. The rest of them, not my sheep. And so, do they get it? No. They don't get it. This is way too hard for them. Now look at verse 7. Therefore Jesus said again, I tell you the truth. I'm the gate. So he changes. Now he's not the shepherd. He's the gate. So he changes the picture a little bit. This is probably more when it goes out in the field. So when they're out in the field, not necessarily in town, they go out in the field, and in the field, they would build a rock circle, usually a circle, and they would have a gate, and that gate was a person. And so when he says, I'm the door, Jesus said, I'm the door, I'm the gate, he guards and protects. And so what happened is a shepherd would be the guard and guard the gate from any kind of wolves coming in and getting the sheep. So he changes the picture. Now he's not just the shepherd who calls them out to follow. He is now the gate, or the door. So Jesus says, I am the door, you are the gate. And so he says, therefore Jesus said, I tell you the truth, I'm the gate for the sheep. Wait a minute, he was just a shepherd. Yeah, now I'm the gate. Can you figure this one out? All who ever came before me were thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. He will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes out only to kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. He's the gate. Now the gate has a couple of jobs in this verse. These verses. What it says is the gate has two specific jobs. One, to let those in, and two, to let those out. So he lets sheep in, he lets sheep out. He lets sheep in, he lets sheep out. He lets them go back and forth. He allows them to enjoy safety and protection, and then he opens up and allows them to enjoy life out here. And so he ends in chapter 10, verse 10, by saying, the thief has come to kill and destroy, but I have come to give you life and give it to you to the fullest. Jesus has come as the good shepherd, as the gate, to say, I want to rule your lives. I want to direct you, guide you, help you, comfort you, bless you, encourage you. I'm the one who's letting you in and out. I let you into the pen. I let you out of the pen. I'm in charge of your life, and life is great when I'm the gate. Anyone else is the gate, you're in trouble. Thief comes along and steals you. Thief comes and lies to you and tells you life would be better if you drink that, smoke that, smell that, see that, say that. And Jesus would say, no, that life will destroy you. I am the gate who will protect you. I am the gate who will give you permission. I am the gate who will take care of you. I'm the gate who will give you life eternal and a good life while you're living here. Turn to me. Doesn't that remind you of the 23rd Psalm? When he says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures, beside still waters. Sets a table up before my enemies. Prepares for me a place in heaven forever. This is a picture of a shepherd who cares for his flock. Now look at what he says next about himself, because they still don't get it. In verse 11, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. He's his protector. Verse 12, the hired hand is not the shepherd who owns the sheep. So when he sees the wolf coming, he abandons the sheep and runs away. Then the wolf attacks the flock and scatters it. The man runs away because he is a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. Just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that are not of this pen, and I must bring them also. Now that's an interesting statement. Not a sheep of my pen, the same pen. You look at that and you think, what is he talking about? Well, maybe the Mormons are right. Because that's the verse they use. The whole Book of Mormon talks about these people here in America that are here because they are sheep of another flock. That's not what he's talking about. The picture in the very beginning is that the fold is Israel. So who would be the sheep of another fold? Gentiles. The first fold is the Jews. The second fold, the Gentiles. That's what he's talking about. And which is interesting to us, as we know from the Old Testament, that God had promised Abraham that he would be a blessing to the whole world. That the one who would come, Jesus, would bless the whole world, not just the Jews. And the Jews had it all mixed up. They thought it was just for them. They thought this being in relationship to God was just for them. It was not. It was for the whole world. And so Jesus said, you're part of my fold. Yeah, I got you. You know me. I know you. But the Gentiles, there's another group too. And they are going to trust me too. I love them and they love me. I am the good shepherd. You look at this and you say, are they getting it yet? And I think it's beginning to sink in. Because they are getting angrier and angrier at him. And then the next part of the chapter we're going to look at next week. They get angrier and more angry. And what happens in the end is they kill the one who heals, who has never sinned. Why? Because he told them the truth. And said, you're not of my flock. Now listen, there are a lot of people in this world today that say they're going to heaven. If you ask most Americans, they're going to heaven. Right? And you and I have a responsibility to tell the truth. No, they're not. Only those who hear the voice of God. Only those who follow the voice of Jesus, the Good Shepherd, who follow him, who have received him as their gate. Those are the people who will know and go to heaven. Those are the ones who know Christ. This is really irritating. It keeps going off and back to the wrong page. He's the only one. Those who give their lives to Christ are the only ones. How do you hear God's voice? See, this whole thing is about hearing the voice of God. How do you hear? There are some people that hear lots of voices. I don't know if any of you are like that. But if you hear lots of voices, you have a lot of trouble. Right? And sometimes when you're trying to make a decision, it's hard to know what God wants. And what does God really want? And what is he saying? It's hard to know that. So I thought as we looked at this issue, if you must hear from God, we think about what it means to discern God's voice and hear his voice. What's interesting is I read a story this last week, that a story about President Franklin Roosevelt. He was having trouble just seeing so many people. You know, presidents have trouble. They have to see so many people and shake so many hands, and he was just getting weary of it all. And he said, nobody ever listens to me anyway. So he decided he would come up with a new policy. He was going to say to everyone who shook his hand that day, through the line as he greeted them, he was going to say, I killed my grandmother this morning. A president. So he's in the receiving line, he's shaking people's hands. He said, I killed my grandmother this morning. And people would just say, oh, very nice. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. And he'd go on and on. He said nobody would say anything. He said, I guarantee nobody's listening. Nobody's listening. And so finally he shook the hand of this foreign diplomat. And he said, I murdered my grandmother this morning. And the diplomat looked at him, grabbed his hand, leaned in and whispered in his ear, I'm sure she deserved it. You know, finally somebody listened. And I wonder how often God is saying, are you listening? And we have to say, I don't think so. I wonder why. What does it take? Well, if we're going to discern God's voice, you have to join the fold. You have to be a part. Listen, not everybody responds to the shepherd. When the good shepherd comes and says, shh, I wish I could whistle. Hey, come here. Guess who comes? Guess who comes? Those that are his. Those that are his. And if you're not his, you don't recognize it. You listen to something else. What are you listening to this morning? I'm listening for Jesus. What does he say? What does he want me to do? What does he want me to say? Where does he want me to go? What does he want me to do this morning on a Sunday morning? What does God want me to do? Where is God? I'm listening. I'm listening. And most people have another God they're listening to. Another shepherd. That's not my shepherd. My shepherd is happiness. Is this going to make me happy? Then I better do it. My shepherd is peace. Is this one going to give me peace at any cost? Okay. My happiness, I'm a hedonist. I just want to feel good. And when something says it'll make you feel good, I do it. Because it makes me feel good. And sometimes our shepherd is ourselves. Whatever I want. And our God and our shepherd is whatever I want is what I do. And that's what we listen to. What are you listening to? If you're a believer in Jesus and you give him your life and you surrender your heart and soul and mind to him, that he's the one to whom you listen. He's the one you run to. He's the one you perk your ears up to. What does it matter what anyone else says? What does it matter what happens? What does it matter what happens in this world? If the shepherd says stand, you say yes, sir. If the shepherd says come on over here, yes, sir. Why? Because we love him and we know his voice. We hear him. If you're not a part of the fold, you don't care what he says. All the other sheep would sit there and just look around and think, oh, that was a horrible noise. Reminds me of Paul whenever he was when he was saved. You remember on the road to Damascus one day, he's walking and everyone else hears thunder. He hears Jesus speaking to him. And he begins to talk to Jesus. Everyone else just hears noise. He hears Jesus. A lot of people in this world that hear just a noise. They don't hear God's voice. They're not in his family. They're not part of the sheepfold. They're not his. He's not taken ownership of them. Isn't it interesting? In these verses, he says, my sheep know my voice. I own them. They're mine. And then the psalmist writes, the Lord is my shepherd. There's an ownership. And ownership is commitment. Now, yesterday, a couple of the guys came over and they borrowed my table saw. Mary Jo said after they left, it's really nice to have something somebody wants or needs. That's fine. But it's mine. And they borrowed it. And I like it when they borrow my stuff because they fix it. Sometimes. But it's mine. It's mine. Mary Jo bought it for me. Gave it to me as a present. Here, go work. I don't buy presents like that for her, do you? Go work. Oh, I do? I do. Go work. But it's mine. I haven't etched my name on it or anything. But you own it. But you lend it out, right? And that's just fine. And when you lend things, you lend them without demands. Use it for whatever you need and whatever. But you just lend it. What happens is if it's not yours, you can't lend it. Now, there are people in this world that borrow something and then lend it to somebody else. Those are scoundrels. Don't do that. Unless you ask the owner first, Can I lend this to these guys? But the reality is, people, if you don't own it, you can't lend it. And Jesus owns us. It's one thing to say, Jesus is my Lord and my Savior, and it's quite another for God to say, you're my child. There are some people who say, well, I believe in Jesus, but God is not committed to them. Because it's all in their head. There's no commitment. There's no sense of, I will do what you want. I will follow you. When the shepherd says, hey, come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. You go, I don't know. That, I don't know, says, maybe you're not part of the sheepfold. Maybe you're not really his. Because what he says in the picture is, when I call, they come. They know my voice. They hear it. Oh, there's the one who died for me. He wants me to do what? Oh, yes, sir. There's the one who gave his life for me. There's the shepherd who protects me. There's the shepherd who loves me. There's the shepherd who gave his heart and life for me so that I can live forever. Oh, yes, 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 yes. Ah, that's a sheep who knows his owner. Anything worse than an animal that thinks he's his own owner. Is there? Which is the most useful? A wild stallion or a disciplined, trained horse? Well, the wild stallion does his own thing. And he's worthless. Worthless. What can a wild stallion do? Run. It reminds me of that. A movie. There was a dog in this movie. I think it was Farmhouse or something like that. This dog just running all the time. There goes dog. He runs. A wild dog. What good is a wild dog running? It's worthless. There goes my dog. What's his name? Wild. What's he good for? Nothing. But a dog, man, a dog can be a blessing to you. Yesterday I saw on the news, a guy came home from overseas and he was in the service, and his dog came running out, and the dog is just wagging his tail and licking and jumping and just going bananas. Doesn't the dog make you feel good? Makes you feel wanted. Cats, they say dogs are man's best friend, right? What are cats? They're God. They do whatever they want. Dog make you feel good. Wants his owner to feel good. Knows its owner's voice. I call the dog, and the dog goes, yeah, whatever. The owner calls the dog, he's running. That's my owner. That's the one who feeds me. That's the one who takes care of me. That's the one who has a bed for me. That's the one who has a place for me. That's the one who treats me kindly. That's the one who does things for me. That's the one we go hunting together. That's the one we go play together. That's the one who throws the ball and chases it anywhere. Listen, it's about a relationship you have with a dog. It's about a relationship you have with the shepherd. It's an exciting relationship. If it's not, you're probably not his sheep. It starts by being a part and being a part of the sheepfold. It starts by saying, I'm a part. I give my life to Christ. I surrender everything to him. He is my Lord and Master. He is the one I serve. That's what it means to be a Christian. So when the shepherd speaks, I follow. The second thing, if you're going to hear the voice, first you got to know the voice, but secondly, wait on the Lord. We even sang about that this morning. But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Wait on the Lord. Wait on the Lord. Wait. You know what? Most people can't wait. Gotta have it now. Me and Mary Jo and I have joined Amazon.com. We're prime buyers, man. We are prime. We paid $75 so we could get free shipping. I have an intimate relationship with my UPS man. He comes to my house almost daily. We pay no taxes on this stuff. Well, this year. Watch out. What the government's going to do is going to get taxes. Don't pay taxes and the prices are better. Because we don't want to wait. We're too lazy to go to the store. It's much easier just to go to the door and say, thank you. And get a little box. It's like Christmas every day. We don't want to wait. We want everything right now. Some of you have your iPods and your phones, and you get on the internet here, and you get to your Bible program or something, and we don't have internet access here, so it goes 3G or 4G, and you're sitting there going, come on, he's reading the verses already. Where's my scripture? Hurry up. Why can't they get Wi-Fi here at this church? You pay the $25 a month, we'll get Wi-Fi. Because we want it right now. I don't want to wait. I want it right now. Listen, you're not going to hear the shepherd until you learn to wait. Until you learn to rest. Slow down your life. Now I know, 40 years ago they said, we're going to have so many things. Phones, iPads, all kinds of stuff. To make everything so much nicer, so we will be at comfort and we won't be in such a hurry. It didn't work out that way, has it? People are more busy than getting out. But you know what they're doing? They're having all these amenities, all these things to help. Cooking is so much faster, right? Freezer, TV dinner, Microwave. 2 minutes. Eat. Right? No, better not be. That's not good food. We want everything so quickly, but a lot of our stuff is made so we can have things so much quicker. Set your DVR so you can watch it whenever you want. Watch that hockey game, Roger. Hate commercials. Why can't we wait now with all this stuff? Well, because we fill it up with other things. Our kids, my goodness, our kids. They go to school. They go to club. They go to sports. They go to club. They go to sports. They go to Cubs. Go to Scout. None of those things are bad. When are they ever home? When are they ever quiet enough to hear God? When do they ever just sit back and say, oh God, speak to my heart? When is there ever time for you? You work, you get up, you get those kids ready for school. Hopefully you're praying for the day when they can dress themselves. Without you having to say, I don't think so. Like little boys. You just look at them and go, are you kidding? A sweater, plaid, with striped shorts. Every once in a while I walk into the house to pick up Kayla, and there is Alex, and I just look and go, did your mom dress? No, she didn't. She left before you got here. Got up. No, you can't wear that today. So I have to be grandpa and say, you can't wear that today. Why? Because it's 24 degrees and you can't wear shorts. And you look silly with shorts and a sweater.
Really?
I don't have any long pants. Get some of your brothers. What is wrong with us? We're so busy. We don't have time for God. So you get up in the morning, ladies and guys, you get up and you get everybody ready and you rush yourself off to work and you get off to work and you're praying that the kids actually do get up, the older one, and that they do get to school because you've got to trust them now. And you're off at your work and you're working hard all day long and it's hard work and you're sweating and you're working and you're talking to people and you're getting insulted and you're all kinds of things happening to you. And it's just noon, you're finally getting lunch and you get 20 minutes, you snarf down some food and the afternoon comes and your dead time comes, right? Somebody's dead time. Mine is around 3 o'clock. It's like life is over. The old body just goes, eh. You get up and about 3 o'clock till 4, I'm just kind of about, whoa. You know, and that's about time we start club, after school club, and I'm whoa, I'm on my low time right here. And you get down, and then finally time comes to go home. You get home, and it's 5:30, it's 5:45, you're getting home, you're thinking about dinner, you ladies, and you're going, oh my goodness, we got to get dinner. What, we got to do something quick, because I'm starving, and I didn't put anything in the crock pot today. That would have taken thinking ahead. Don't ever think ahead, because I'm too busy. There's a whole lot going on right now that I need to be doing right now. Can't think about 5:36. It's going to take care of itself. So you throw something together and you think, I'll do better next time. Next time we'll actually eat some vegetables. No, we're going to McDonald's. And you wonder why. Never mind. McDonald's. McDonald's is wonderful. For some. But then it's cleanup time. Then it's homework time. Then it's time to wind down some. Then it's time to fight for bed. And pretty soon it's 9 o'clock, 9:30, and you just now sat down, and you're thinking, I got to get in bed by 10:30. Or I'm a zombie. Wait a minute. I did that last night. I am a zombie. It's hard to find time. And what you have to do is you have to start packing up and saying, all right, God, how do I arrange my life so that I can hear from you? Because you can't hear when you're so busy. You can't wait on the Lord when you're so busy. You have to back up and take a breath and start saying, some things I'm not going to do. Obviously, you got to go to work. You got to eat. But there's some things you don't have time to do. Most counselors of families will tell you your kids ought to be doing one thing. More than one, you're in trouble. You got more than one kid, you're in lots of trouble. You got 6, it's over. I mean, there's still so many people running around. So much to do. If you have 3 kids and they're all doing one thing, it's how many times you're out? 3 times. It's really hard. But if you don't simplify your life, you won't hear from God. You have to simplify. Your kids will not be deprived. I'll guarantee you. They won't later say, my parents wouldn't let me do everything I wanted. They'll do it now. But later when they're adults, they'll look back and say, Mom and Dad were smart to let us one thing. Now I know that goes against everything this culture tells you. This whole culture is built around the kids and them being active in everything. God intended you to have a family that worshiped together, that ate together, that grew together, and enjoyed being together. And what the world does is it pulls everybody out to do other things. And you can't wait on God. Now, some people say it's just God's fault. I read a story this week that's great. This old man said, me and my wife and I are having a hard time getting along. The communication is just not right. He said, I think she has a hearing problem. So she was sitting at a desk, and he was about 10 feet away, and he said, can you hear me? No response. He got a little closer. Can you hear me now? No response. He got a little closer. Can you hear me? No response. He got really close to her, and he said, can you hear me now? And she turned around and said, that's the 4th time I've said yes. What's wrong with you? See, sometimes you think it's the other person's fault. And you are the deaf one. You are the deaf one. You think it's God not talking? You think God just doesn't talk to you? God is always speaking. It's you who are not listening. Let me share with you something else you can do. Besides simplifying your life so that you have time, you know, at the end of your day, when I know it's been so hectic, it would suit you well to not turn the TV on and to lay down in your bed and just say, oh God, it's so nice that it's quiet. And no one's talking, the TV's not running, and everything's so nice. Lord, how was this day? Because right now, it feels pretty bad. Take a deep breath. Lord, anything I could have done better? Don't be careful. Be careful with that one. Lord, what about tomorrow? Okay, I will. I'll get up in 5 minutes early, put a crock pot. Listen, you're not going to hear from God when you're so busy. Cut out some silliness in your life. Cut out some things that keep you. If you can't change the hourly structure of your day, it just life happens, then change the ones you can. Change your Friday night, change your Saturday, change your Sunday afternoon. Don't do some things to fill time. Learn how to wait on the Lord. The second thing, take time to fast. You know, it's interesting, Jesus does not talk a lot about fasting. He doesn't really give some instructions, except here in Matthew chapter 6, verse 16, he said, and when you fast, do not look gloomy like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces that their fasting may be seen by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. The only thing Jesus says about fasting is don't make a show of it. You're going to fast? Fast. Then why do you fast? Why do you set aside time to not eat? Because we like it. And we enjoy it. Eating.
Yeah, eating.
Some of you like the taste of it. Some of you like the volume of it. Or some of you like both. But eating in our world is not it's not hardly a necessity, is it? We eat because we enjoy. If I said to you, how many of you are going out to eat after service this morning? Several of you would raise your hand and you'd say, we're going to a place we do not like. Well, no, you wouldn't say that. Usually you go to a place you like because you like the food. You don't go for the ambiance. Now you might if you're on a date. The food better be good too. Fasting is a way of saying, you know that thing you like so much? You know the thing you like so much? Set it aside. Set it aside for me. Maybe you need to set it aside to lose some weight, fine. But set it aside for me. Whether it's a day fast, a meal fast, a week, 2 weeks. Jesus went 40 days. What you do is you say, God, I want to hear from you. I have an issue in your life. You want to hear from God? Tiffany, you want to hear from God? Fast. Take some time. It's all right. Drink some juice. Don't be unhealthy. Be careful. You might want to talk to your doctor first. Some of you might have imbalances that you need to make sure of. But you go and you just say, you know what? When it's time to eat, I will go pray. And when I have fasted and taken time to say, you know what, God, I can set this aside. I want to hear from you. I have a reason to be here. I love you. I want to serve you. I want to hear from you. I have this issue, Lord, and I want you to speak to me. I never sensed that he spoke the first day. I found that at the end, that the Lord would just take care of things. Sometimes he just said, not to worry and not to fret. And sometimes he would say, this is what's going to happen. But you're not going to know unless you set aside some time to hear and to wait and to fast. The next thing is to search the Word. Romans says faith comes by hearing and hearing by the Word of Christ. You're not going to know what God's will is. You're not going to know His voice until you know what's going on in the Word. Why do we tell you to read? I say this every week, I feel like. Get into the Word. You think you know what Christ's voice is like, but you'll know by applying it to the Word and saying, is God saying I should not do this? But His Word says I should? If you're hearing a voice that says, do this, and God's Word says, don't do that, you have a problem. It's not God saying it. I mean, how many times have you heard someone say, yeah, God told me to kill that person? And you're going to go, okay, that wasn't God. But that person was convinced. You balance the voice you're hearing with God's Word. You take time, you wait on Him, you listen to Him. And then Hebrews 12, in fact, turn with me to Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 1. We've been going through Hebrews on Wednesday nights, and I've been having a good time. And if you've missed some of it, you need to be there this week. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. Let us run with perseverance the race that is marked out for us. You got to remove some obstacles. You are never going to hear from God, be able to run your race when you're tied down by anger, when you're tied down by bitterness, when you're tied down by complaining. A complainer never hears God's voice. The complaints are way too loud. Have you ever noticed that? If you're a complainer and a murmurer, I like that word. That's King James Old Testament. Murmur. Nobody talks like that today. Did you murmur? Have a heart murmur? Some people have a spiritual heart murmur. They're just that's murmuring. Unhappy. Miserable. God could be shouting, and you're never going to hear Him. When you're murmuring, complaining, wishing things were better, wanting them to change. When is it ever going to be better? You never hear God under those circumstances. You got a nasty attitude. You know bad attitudes are easy to get, very hard to get rid of. And you're going to hear God with a bad attitude. Parents know what bad attitudes are, don't they? Don't your parents know what a bad attitude is? Defined as my kid.
No, your kid.
Your kid. Bad attitude. Hard to get rid of. You kids, you teenagers, nasty. Attitudes are nasty. They're nasty. And you are nasty when you have one. So are we as adults. They'll keep you from hearing God. Why? Because your focus is all on yourself. See, bad attitudes are nothing more than selfishness expressed. Selfishness expressed. Bad attitude. Faith expressed, good attitude. Trust in God, good attitude. Right? You got it? You got to remove some obstacles, blaming other people. Have you ever heard someone say, he hurt me? Ever heard that? That's a choice. That's a choice. Choose to not hear from God and hang on to bitterness and be angry and upset and hurt. You won't hear God. You won't hear Him. You can't. Restlessness. Get rid of it. You can't hear God. The last thing, it's in verse 2 here in Hebrews 12. You're going to have to focus on Jesus. Get over it. Whatever it is. Get over it. Stop it. And start looking at Jesus. Look at your trouble. You're not going to hear God. What are you going to hear when you look at how bad things are? What is it like when you get on the news and something bad's happening every day? How does it feel when you watch the news? It's depressing. The economy's in the tank. House prices are down. People are broke. Nobody's got a job. Unemployment in the Kansas City area is around 7. It's not as bad as most states and most places. Nobody's got a job, right? Because that's what you hear. So you get depressed and you get down. Well, look at that stuff. And I tell you what, someday, just get up and look at how sinful you are and see how you feel. How you going to feel? Well, you know what? I don't read my Bible like I should. Don't pray very much. Get upset with my wife some. Get angry at work. I yell at other drivers, do you? You know what? I get upset about it. You start looking at yourself. You know what? You get pretty depressed, right? Right? You know all you've proven? You're a sinner. God already knows all that. How are you going to hear from God when all you're looking at yourself? How are you going to hear from God when all you look at is how bad you are? You're going to have to look at the author and perfecter of your faith, to Jesus. Look at Him. Focus on Him. What is He like? Well, He's gracious. What is He like? He's loving. What is He like? He's accepting. What is He like? He's caring. What is He like? He's all powerful. What is He like? He's great. Look at Him. Turn your eyes on Jesus. Focus on Him. Get off yourself. Get off your problems. Get off of this situation you're in. And get your eyes on Him. And He will transform you. You know, they say as you're driving down the highway not to look at lights as the car's coming at you. And those that have the bright lights, you know why you're not supposed to look? Because you'll drive right into them. What is that? We have a tendency to go towards the things we look at. So what are you looking at? Your own sin? Other people's sins? There you go. Focus on Jesus. You want to hear from Him? You want to hear His voice say, come over here. You want to hear that? Start looking at Him. Looking at your trouble is not going to make it go away. You can stare it down. You got that stare you down, Tyler? I don't know. You can stare you down. You can just stare down your problem. What you need to look is Jesus. What happens when you look at Him? You get encouraged. When you look at Him, you say, well, He's in me. I can do all things through Christ. Oh, He's awesome. He's great. Life is good. No, it's not. No, it's terrible. It's terrible. No, it's good. You look at Jesus and you're lifted up. And you can hear Him. And He says, hey, don't worry about that. Come over here. That's how you hear His voice. You can't hear Him looking at your sin and looking at your trouble and looking at the world. You hear Him by focusing on Him. Can you do that? Can you hear from Him today? Are you His child? Are you His sheep? Has He said, come here to you? I didn't say one special. Go back to John. Go back to John. I don't even have my thing in here. Go back to John And look what he says in John chapter 10. And look at verse 3. This is great. And we're done. The watchman opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. He knows my name. He knows me. He didn't call a country. He didn't call a people. He didn't call a family. He called you by name. He called me by name. That's why one of the choruses I really love. He knows my name. He knows my name. Now, if you're not his sheep, he's not called your name. Now, he might be calling your name right now. He might be saying to you, listen, come to me. I'll give you rest. Come to me. Submit your heart to me. I'll be your shepherd. And the question is, will you follow him? Because you can't hear his voice until you answer that call first. When you answer that call, then it's a life of hearing that voice and following. Boy, it's a life, like John 10:10 says. It's a life far better than what the world offers. It's a good life. Let's bow our heads. Let's pray. Oh God.